And welcome back to AgriTalk in downtown St. Louis at the 26th Annual International Fuel and Ethanol Workshop and Expo. Joining us now is Terry Kulesa, CEO and President of the IR1 Group. Terry, thank you for joining us. And tell us, what is the IR1 Group?
The IR1 Group is a consulting firm. Basically, what we do business development, project development, and also we work with distressed ethanol plants that have gone through bankruptcy or having a tough time with the bank loans and stuff like that, helping them restructure. And then we come in, we have an operations and engineering focus when we come in and help plants out. So existing plants, we help them out, try to improve their performance from either more gallons through the plant, throughput through the plant, less BTU use, things like that. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. Most of our backgrounds, operations, engineering, and construction, and so that's kind of what we're focused on in the industry and try to help out where we can.
That's a key area right now, as a lot of these plants are trying to become more efficient, looking at ways, what can they do, what can they change in their operation to be successful going forward. They've come through a rough period here the last year or two, and they're looking for ways to modernize, become more efficient, more productive with what they have. What options are available to an existing plant?
Well, there's a couple of things they can do. One of the first things you want to do is improve your existing performance where you're at without adding any capital. Most of these plants can't afford to put any capital into their facilities, and so they want to improve their existing performance. A lot of it has to do with teaching and training, most on the fermentation side. If the guys can improve their fermenters and get those working faster and get more throughput through the plant, it lowers your overall cost basically per gallon. And so I think that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. On the next step would be then investing in some technologies that down the road are going to give you more co-products basically. And this is some of the guys who are out trying to build these second-generation cellulosic plants, algae, things like that. What we believe is the ethanol plants will form the base of that in the future. You got a nice base there. You can add on a piece. Let's say you add an algae piece, for example. You've got the CO2 coming off your fermenters, which you need. You've got a thin silage, or you've got a syrup source for food. You've got fermentation abilities. So I think a lot of that can come. They can start expanding their plants basically through small pieces like that. Now, there's some technology out there that's really, everybody likes fractionation, everybody likes, thin stillage turning into methane, stuff like that. But most of the problem was these things cost $30 million. Everybody likes them, and there's a payout on them, but it's just too long, and nobody has the money up front. So a lot of these companies, Eisman is for a good example, they're a company that's taken that thin stillage and kind of downsized that, so it's about a $5 to $6 million expense versus the 30. So you're seeing a lot more of that come into play, and I think a lot of the people are really focused on, here's my base plant, how do I add revenue from what I've got and improve my performance?
So rather than technology making some of these existing plants obsolete, use that technology to allow your plant to be part of this next generation of biofuel.
Yeah, that's where we think it's going to come from, and I think as we work with some second-generation biofuels developers out there who want to build this plant. Well, they got a bucket of ethanol, let's say, from 20 PhDs in the lab, which is great. So they've got to that point, but getting from that point, they have to go to a demo plant. Well, that demo plant's going to be $60–70 million. Now that plant's never going to make any money. It's just got to prove their technology. Well, and then they got to go and raise $150–160 million to start that plant. Well, no equity firm or bank wants to be number one. They'll take the third one you do, but the first one they really won't. And so a lot of guys are having this funding problem, and so DOE is trying to help out. But I think a lot of this can be done with existing ethanol plants. We're joining up with some of these guys and saying, look, let's just do a small piece here. We've got the lab available. We've got the people to run the plant. We can lower the overhead costs, and you guys can lower your technology costs, and let's start to work on that kind of piecemeal and kind of attack it that way, basically, kind of become the true biorefinery.
What might have been perceived as a weakness could actually be a strength for these existing plants.
It really can, because they've got already have the assets. They have a base of technology and talent in these facilities that, frankly, a lot of times you run an ethanol plant for about 3 years, you kind of get bored because you're trying to get stuff out, but a new challenge kind of invigorates everyone in the plant. Kind of, they help them figure out how to make this thing go. A lot of the people in the lab have this idea how it's going to work. You bring it out to the operations people, and they're like, well, that's not going to work in my plant, and so they can really help move that process forward in a critical way that I think they can get a lot more traction.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Terry Kulesa, CEO and President of the IR1 Group. All right, we're broadcasting from the 26th Annual International Fuel and Ethanol Workshop and Expo. Our broadcast made possible by Eisman Clean Air and Energy Technology. Coming up next, Brian Jennings, Executive Vice President of the American Coalition for Ethanol. Stay with us. It's halftime on AgriTalk.